Hey, it's Emma Romano here, founder of the Thrive and Life Foundation, self-healing coach, and the midwife to your personal alchemy.
I am Kelly Bowen, founder of the Heaven Within Foundation, CEO of Lifestyle Finance Australia, finance expert, life and business coach.
And you are listening to Inspired Conversations,
where we talk about the things that really matter. Yes, we go there.
We share together what's exciting us, inspiring us, and having the most profound impact on our lives and our clients' lives. And we do this to elevate and inspire you.
We cover it all from life, body, love, relationships, trauma healing, addictions, business, money, and all things woo-woo.
So sit back, relax,
and get ready to be inspired and laugh the fuck out loud.
Welcome, everybody. This is Emma, and guess who's here?
It's me, Kelly Bowen.
She's bloody well back, peeps. She's back.
I'm back. I'm like this infamous name that's just been across the podcast this year, really. Who is this person?
Kel's back. So this is Inspired Conversations with Emma and Kel. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited because I get my girl back.
Yay!
And Kelly has been away overseas quite some time, just doing incredible work and upgrading and having fun and doing all the things. And she's come home, and I really want to talk about all the upgrades that she's had for herself and what she's created. So Cal, welcome back home, my love.
Thank you, Em. It's so nice to be home. It has been quite a pilgrimage, and I knew before I went on this trip that it was going to be life-changing and that I was going to come back a completely different person. I just wasn't aware like how life-changing and how different. And because I know that we'd spoken on, I think like the last episode that we did together, I was literally talking about like some of the things that I'd been shifting through in business, like right up to this place where I could have the abundance freedom and the time freedom to even do this. Because that in my reality was just like, there's no way I could have gone if that didn't happen, but it was happening so fast. And I feel like this trip was like a huge integration of that abundance and freedom component, because I literally got to have 5 weeks away from my business where I was only doing maybe 2 hours of work a day just to check in on the team and just to make sure things were flowing. And for me, that was like a radically wild experience, because I come from the hardworking gene. This whole idea of like space and freedom and other people can do it all for you and actually maybe do it a little bit better than you do it is just a wild concept. So to be away and to go through such like a rich culture, because we started in Italy and we had 5 days in Rome to kind of like get over our jet lag, and that in itself was an incredible experience. Fell in love in Rome. It was just so beautiful for a city, and like a concrete city. But just when you're there, and the history and the food, the men are also very divine.
Oh my God, aren't they stunning?
They're incredible. And I realized too,
and the women too, like they are all just so impeccably dressed and beautiful and
they're stunning. Like I got there, and this is, I'm sure anybody who's single and who has been on Tinder looking at men will laugh at this. In Australia, we have men on Tinder who hold up their fish or their motorbike or their like 4-wheel drive. If you go to Rome and you put your Tinder on, oh my God, I have never seen such beautiful men, like constantly like beautiful man after beautiful man, but well dressed, they're cultured, they speak multiple languages, they're standing with beautiful monuments, they're like incredible scenery, like it's completely different. And I was going through a thing, I was starting to question my sexuality, and I'm like, am I more gay than I am bisexual? And then I saw the European men, I'm like, no, just looking in the wrong pond.
Just looking at Tinder in the wrong country, Dal.
Tinder in the wrong country. That alone has made me think about like maybe I should move to Rome, or at least some European country. Anyway, needless to say, I had a really good time in Rome, and I sampled all of the culture has to offer. And this is where the I started to have this realization as I was away. So we're maybe like 5 days into the trip and we're about to get on a boat, and we're on a 10-day boat cruise, and every day of this boat cruise we're stopping at a different port. So we're going to like Pompeii, Mykonos, Santorini, Athens, back around to Olympus, Sicily, Malta. Did I say Pompeii? Anyway, there's so many different places where we were going. And then what I'm starting to like realize as we're getting to this part is like, one, I'm integrating this sense of freedom that I've never felt before. Like the last time that I remember having kind of like that responsibility break was back when I was stripping. So we're going back, like this is back to 2008, the first time I ever felt this like, oh wow, like you don't have to be stuck in this kind of grind of what life can be. And I didn't realize that I'd been in it as much as I had been. So I'm starting to experience this freedom again, except this time that I know that I've got money and I'm going to come home. I've got money to go away with. I've got money to come home with. And there's something there that if I'm not working, it still keeps working. And I started realizing, I'm like, you know what? I thought I lived. And I always have a bit of a joke about being a little bit hedonistic by nature. And anybody who doesn't know what that word means, it's the one's pursuit of pleasure. And I just love I love experiences. I like them to be like rich and decadent and things that light up like all five senses, and new life experiences and being present to new life experiences, because this is how you bring like your childlike wonder and curiosity into things. And this is how you always feel like you're alive, because it's very easy to let the small things slip and get bored with life. So anyway, so this is starting to come online, and I'm starting to realize I was like, I was living, but I wasn't living anywhere near to the capacity that I could be living. And when you're on an experience like that, having these 5 incredible days in Rome where we just literally like soaked everything up, and then getting on the boat where like the boat's a new life experience. Every day we're in a new port or a new country, having like moment by moment new life experience. And I was just like, wow, I haven't been living anywhere near to the extent that I could be. And I've been so focused on building my business and building my mission and creating something for myself that I'd forgot some of these, simpler isn't the right word, some of these other pleasures and joy that we put on that I will do that later once I have this thing that actually enriches the thing. And I was like, wow, okay, that's definitely something to think about. And I'd kind of gone from like my history, I'd gone from like complete adrenal burnout and fatigue to learning how to listen to my body. And in the learning to listen to my body, I think I'd kind of gone the other side where I was like, if I'm tired, I'm like, nope, I'm resting. Sorry, I can't come to your dinner, or I can't do whatever it is that I'd had planned because the body is tired. And I really learned in that, because there were moments where I was tired. I was so tired. But because we were moving so fast, and that if I didn't make the effort in that moment, the moment's gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'll go for that horse ride tomorrow in Pompeii through the vineyards because I'm tired today. It's like, no, you either get off the ship and go, or you don't.
Yeah. You either go now, or you won't go. Yeah.
Or you won't go. And this is one of the things that I've really brought back from the trip, because so we did all of that, and then we went into Egypt, and Egypt, oh my God, like that's a whole other thing again. Just having this deep, rich sensory experience, that I've come home and I've brought that same like fun and play and curiosity and just this desire to be involved in it. Because sometimes like you don't want to make the effort because you are a little bit tired, or you're a little bit zapped from the day. And you'll be like, oh, you know, I'm going to go watch Netflix, or I'm going to do whatever it is to like to tone down. And what I really learned is that sometimes you just got to, it's a little bit like going to the gym to just build that muscle a little bit, like just push that little bit, because once you get through that barrier, what is there and what life has to offer is so magical. And bringing this level of importance to having these sorts of experiences as equal to me fulfilling my mission, my purpose, and what it is that I'm doing through the vehicle of, inverted commas, business, making these life pleasures and experiences is equally important, because that's what really enriches me. That's what brings my fuel into what I'm doing. Whereas I'd always thought, well, one has to be done before the other. And I can even hear my dad's voice in my head about it. He always used to say to me, this is like back in my water skiing days, you have to work really hard first, mate, and then you can play. But you can't play until you've worked hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's such an interesting rule, because even though like I've kind of lived by it, and don't get me wrong, like I've definitely had a good time, but this was different. This was like an embodiment of what life could be now, having got to that place and then integrating the two worlds together. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Absolutely, definitely. I was the same. So when I went to Egypt last year, you know, Anthony and I went away for a month, and I just couldn't believe that that's the time I really switched off. And it was, I was in every moment. I was really present. And I remember sitting on a camel, and, you know, you're out in the middle of, you know, nowhere. And for some reason, my phone kept going off like this ding, 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 ding. And I looked at it, and I'd made $10,000 while sitting. Yeah, it was just, you know what? And you don't have to work hard to receive that $10,000. You know, you can hang out and chat to camels.
Yeah.
And you know, be with your gorgeous husband and have this spiritual adventure and this beautiful, you know, it's an incredible adventure going to Egypt.
Yeah.
You know, like going anywhere, you can go anywhere, you know, and just have amazing, and you don't have to go to Egypt, go anywhere and have adventures. But I think the whole thing is, I think it's bullshit about you have to work really hard and then you play, because it's such a blocker to abundance. Because abundance is all about play.
Yes.
It's play first and then work hard.
Yeah. And look, we're not saying, and I totally get, Em and I are sitting here talking to you from a place where we have actually created established businesses. And I get, like, if you're at the beginning of your journey and you're hearing this message, you're probably going, yeah, well, that's great, guys, but I actually haven't created anything yet. And if you are listening to us from that, and you're at that stage, if I was to do it differently, I would incorporate more of this.
100%. I would have incorporated so much more play, because I used to work like 12-hour days.
Yeah. And I think about the some of the enjoyment that I've lost in that. And don't get me wrong, I love what I do. Absolutely love what I do. Yeah, it was also by me not incorporating these things that we're talking about is what had me burn out.
Yes.
They're also the things that at times had me feel so lonely, so disconnected from my world, and so like people don't understand me. Because I'd gone from, it was almost like I'd put all of my eggs in that this basket is going to be the thing that saves me, kind of thing, you know, like saves my broke situation, saves me from myself, like creates this better life. And, you know, in reality, I guess it kind of did. However, the way that I always have this saying, which is, who are you? What have you done? And did you do it gracefully? And the other one is like, do I like the process that you followed if I'm going to look at working with you? But those three things, who are you? What have you done? Did you do it gracefully? And if I was to go back and do it again and do it a little more gracefully, I would be weaving this into the foundation, because this allowing of like pleasure and enjoyment and play is the frequency of abundance. And whatever you're creating something in, that foundation is what you're going to build upon. And I would almost be as bold to say is that the foundation that I was creating, the thing that was going to take me to the experience that I've just had 10 years down the track, I wasn't creating it with as abundant foundation as I could have. There was a lot of scarcity in it. There was a lot of control in it. And where if I was to do it again with the awareness that I have now, I would be making sure that this frequency was in there a lot more. Not just in the execution of what I was doing, but for the nourishment of me as a human. Not having to go,
yeah, exactly. But we're taught not to. And this is Kel's and my advice. Like, if you want to take it, you don't have to. It doesn't work. Anything that Kel and I say doesn't work. You just throw it the fuck out, right? If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. That's cool. When you start your business from the beginning, it can be quite, it is challenging, especially for your mindset and your heart, and you're healing through it. Because when we create a business, it's creating like a new entity, a new energy. And the one thing that to do it easier is to create more play in it, create more fun, more play. And I know this is going to be, some people go, I can't, but you can. Switch off from it too. Give it a break, give it a rest. You can't work 7 days a week. There's no point to it, because your business is an energy in itself as well. And it also needs to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to catch up, and it needs a Sunday off too. It needs a Saturday night. It needs to go for a cup of tea at the coffee shop with some friends as well.
Yeah.
You need to allow it to breathe. So it's so hard to say that, but when you're not thinking of it, focus on something very joyful instead and catch yourself in that moment. So when you start panicking about your business, go, oh, that's right, I don't panic about this anymore. I'm giving myself an hour off. I've got 30 minutes to go. It's literally.
100%.
So, and then you'll just find it'll be so much easier.
Yeah.
So much more graceful. Kelly and I have learnt this the hard way, Pete. Let me just say.
You can learn one of two ways. You can either learn it the hard way, or you could take somebody else's good advice that would have done it differently. I wish I was one that was more geared towards the second. However,
Same, Kel. Same.
Myself.
Kel, tell me about you integrating your freedom and your abundance and your spirituality when you're overseas. I reckon everyone is just going to want to know.
All right.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so this is really interesting. So I was traveling with minimum of 5 people at any one given point in time, up to 6. And all of the people that we're with was from my best friend's New Earth Mission Collective. So Gabby Kowalski's New Earth Mission Collective, which is all about all very highly mission souls, all have high level of quantum access, and all doing like big things on the planet. So going into some of these spaces, like one of the people we were with, Polina, she would have to be probably one of the most powerful channels I have ever. I would say she is the most powerful channel that I have experienced. And in terms of like, she would definitely be right up there in terms of the purity of her channel that I've ever seen. And so on Gaia, there's a guy called Matthias Di Stefano, and he talks about how the evolution of the universe, and he'll talk about like the mysteries of the pyramids and like what really happened, not what we think happened. Polina has that kind of access. So when we were going through like the ancient Greek monuments and the ancient Egyptian temples and pyramids, there was like what the tour was telling us, and then there was what Polina could channel and the stories that she was telling us. And it was wild. And Gabby, my best friend, has this kind of access too. So between the two of them, it was like we're on our own private, like real tour of the temples and real tour of the pyramids, not what we've been taught to think. And what's really interesting, so both Gabby and Belina teach this about the different realms of existence. So we have the lower realm of existence, which is where most people, when they wake up and they realize that they're in a matrix and they realize that there's all this corruption going on, they wake up into the middle realms of existence, which is like, you gotta see the truth. They're all gonna make us have vaccine passports, and like the dark side of things, and the child trafficking. And that's not to say that this isn't happening. This is absolutely happening, and it is happening in the lower realms of existence. And this is going to be a very high level overview for you to understand the realms with where I'm going with this. But I think this piece is important to understand what I'm about to share. And then you've got the middle realms, which is, think of it kind of like the middle realms of existence is where everything's going pretty great. Typical 3D success. Go to uni, get a good job, have the family, the white picket fence, you make good income, you go on a couple of family holidays a year, like you're still very much within the matrix grids, but there's a lot more of abundance in it. And you have a lot more, like, you're still in the matrix, but you have a lot more freedom within it. You care more about materialistic things. And then you've got the higher realms of existence. And the higher realms of existence are driven by abundance, freedom, and love, and about unity consciousness. Now, what happens when we're looking at how reality exists, because it's all fabricated from within us that we create externally to us, and then we call that our reality. But when we're looking at which realm we're vibrating in, depends upon where our dominant vibration is. And it's a little bit like a radio station. You can tune into whichever one, but you just need to be really conscious about where you're streaming your information from. Because if you take information from a lower realm of existence and you call that the truth, you then go and create that and you live within that reality. So one thing that I like, that I tend to check myself with when I'm thinking, like, which realm am I in, and is my reality really reflecting love, abundance, unity, and freedom? And if it's not, I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm in a higher realm right now. I'm probably somewhere in the middle, or, you know, lower realms are very much driven by fear. So if I've got fear going on, judgment, scarcity, I'm like, okay, I'm clearly not in one of my higher realms. So, you know, let's just check in and let's see what's going on. Don't mind the curtains. 1 second. So when I'm navigating through this, I always ask myself the question is, like, what is the highest idea here? And how would love see this? And when I ask this question, if I'm stuck in like a more denser reality, that'll bring me back up to the higher realms. And what you have to remember is some of these myths and legends about ancient Greek and ancient Egypt is that when we hear about the gods, so the Greek gods, like Zeus, Hera, Apollo, his sister Artemis, when we start hearing stories about these mythical beings, we're hearing about what they did here through human consciousness or human perception. And if the consciousness isn't capable of seeing the bigger picture of what's really going on, you get all kinds of wild stories. Like, you know, Apollo was both the god of the sun and the underworld. And if you went and asked Apollo a favor, he would always give you really fickle advice, because to go to the underworld, it would always cost him something. And depending upon where you're connecting with a god will depend upon what kind of version of them that you get. Or Zeus was this like horny god that used to love having sex with mortals, and Hera was always jealous because he kept having demigods. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. You got all of these stories. And what I really, going through each one of these temples, I'm not somebody who has huge visual experience to quantum access, but I do feel things. I'm so kinesthetic that I can feel what's going on, but I don't really get the data until later. And then all of a sudden it'll just be like this boom directive through me, like go execute this part of your mission, go open a brokerage in New Zealand, like go connect with this person. But I don't really get any of the thing that's happened beforehand. Yeah. I just end up kind of like with the data, but I'll feel things, and I'll feel things shifting through my emotional body. Anyway, so what I loved about going through this and then hearing, like, we hear about what the gods did through kind of like middle lower realm realities, not actually through the higher realms. So we received a lot of information about the purity of what they were here to do and how they helped humanity evolve, like with the oracles and the priestesses, and like returning that back to love. And then everything else was distortions. Like when you look in the middle and the lower realms of existence, you'd have, you know, there's like, our life force energy is being siphoned by alien beings, and, you know, the Anunnaki and the reptilians and all of this, right? And, you know, you've heard these stories, right? And what would happen, and this was a really interesting thing to receive, and again, just being conscious of like where you're receiving information from, because light is just information, that back in the time where humanity was going through these golden ages, so like the Greek god golden ages, and then through Egypt golden ages, and when the beings that actually had the followings and the teachings, like Isis and Hathor in Egypt, when they were sharing their teachings, and then when they were no longer here, they already had these beautiful followings and these beautiful ways of being. Other beings would come and impersonate them, and they would cause the mischief. And then their mischief would be what would then filter down through humanity, not the original teachings, not the original teachings of oneness and unity and love.
Wow. That's really potent. That's really strong.
Yeah, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so like back in ancient Greek times, there were God beings here helping humanity evolve and teaching them about love and unity and consciousness. The whole modern world came out of Greece. The modern world didn't come out of these fickle beings that like to toy and poke and play with humanity. Like when you think about like the people, Socrates, Homer, Aristotle, like these people came from that time. Where was this consciousness coming from? It wasn't from fickle gods. So then just seeing like, I guess sort of like raising the octave and the understanding on that and receiving from that pure level, like that purity of consciousness. I still don't know what all of this means for me yet. It's still integrating every day. I feel like I'm waking up and there's a different being inside of me. Like I'm a different version of myself. Like my consciousness is constantly shifting, and I'm integrating more and more like what this concept of freedom is. If I'm creating like true freedom for myself and I'm not looping back in parts of my past and letting the past create the present, if I'm in like true sovereignty and asking myself like, what do I want to create? How do I want my reality to be? What do I want to create in this world? And focusing on that, like that in itself is such a huge piece. And what do I want to do with this abundance now? What do I want to do with this time freedom? Because there's this really interesting thing that happens. Like, I'm not sure if you've experienced something like this, Emma. Have you ever caught like, I don't know, rescued a mouse from a cat and put the mouse in a box?
Yeah.
And then you take the mouse somewhere safe and you go to let it out of the box. It doesn't want to go out of the box. It wants to stay in the box because the box all of a sudden feels safe.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to embrace its freedom. We're like that.
100%.
So and this is the thing that I'm noticing, like as my own intelligence is expanding to understand the different realms and like where I'm streaming data from,